Welcome back to another episode of the Taiwanology podcast. This is your host, Liu Guangying from Taiwan's Commonwealth Magazine. Today, I'm very happy because we have a very special guest coming all the way from Paris. This remarkable woman was once an investment strategist at Goldman Sachs and BlackRock, and even a chef across 3 continents. Wenjie Singh is the Global Program Director of the Cartier Women's Initiative, CWI. This initiative is an annual international entrepreneurship program that started 17 years ago, aiming to drive change by empowering women who are impact entrepreneurs. The program is open to women-run and women-owned businesses from any country and sector that aim to have a strong and sustainable social and environmental impact. Wenjie has had a distinguished career in the capital markets for 15 years at State Street Global Advisor, Barclays Global Investors, BlackRock, and Goldman Sachs and Company. She had also worked for a year as a chef in Mexico City, Bangkok, and Paris before she took on this super exciting job at Cartier. So I'll make sure we come back to the chef later on in the show. So welcome to the studio, Wenjie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Right. We understand that this is your first time in Taiwan, right?
Actually, it's my first time since post-COVID, I would say. But many years ago, I used to come to Taiwan quite often.
Oh, okay. So what's your impression this time, post-COVID?
Well, I've always loved Taiwan. You know, it has a very special place in my heart because one of my childhood's best friend is Taiwanese. And this time returning to Taiwan, it's my first time since I became program director for the Cartier Women Initiative. And certainly with the lens of looking at woman impact entrepreneurship and also the activities around impact entrepreneurship in Taipei, it's been really inspiring.
Right. Okay. We'll make sure we go back to your childhood friend later on in the show as well. So just from my very brief introduction of you, we have learned that you have had a really colorful career. The first 15 years in the capital markets with the investment banking bros. And how was that like? How did you start as in an investment banking?
I started my career first in the capital markets, and indeed, it was the financial service is a incredibly important industry for the world. Of course, it's the pulse of the finance and also the pulse of business. For me, it was also very male-dominated and industry. Mm-hmm. So I would say in my journey of being a professional in the capital markets, definitely the idea of gender equality and woman advancement in financial service was always something that is, coming up as a topic. Mm. But that said, I would say I loved my time in the capital markets. For 15 years, I think if you are really passionate about investment, finance, it is a fascinating world of how capital and risks comes together to empower change. And so have had an incredible 15 years of career there.
Right. So from capital markets to impact investing and becoming a program director for Cartier's Women's Initiative, how did this happen?
In my last role in the capital markets, I had a chance. I was at that time based in San Francisco, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. Really had the chance to look at a lot of fintech startups. And it was my first time really realizing the lack of consideration around products and services that were being developed with women in mind. And when I looked further into sort of why the products and services that are being developed, being innovated, being created, lacked its consideration around women as a population.
Well, what does that mean? Can you give us an example of a lack of consideration?
Sure. So for example, back in those days, so this was around maybe 10, 12 years ago, there were a lot of products and services such as fintech products that are around longevity management, long-term savings management. There was a lot of healthcare products that was created also with women and men, and yet the idea of product roadmap, like product managers, just the presence of women in the overall entrepreneurship ecosystem was much less.
Right.
And so when you look around, there were not many women founder. There were not many women investors. And as a result, many of the products and services that were being thought of also I felt was missing the consideration of women. And while I'm talking about women here, the truth is it's actually many underrepresented minorities, right? And so it led to this idea that actually an inclusive entrepreneurship ecosystem is very much necessary in order for the innovation that's being created to be represented for all. So that's really sort of what began my journey. I felt like in the next chapter of my life, I wanted to have this idea of contributing to building an inclusive entrepreneurship ecosystem. And when the opportunity with Cartier Women Initiative emerged, it really felt like it would be a great place for me to sort of contribute to.
Right. Yeah. So 15 years ago, when you started in the capital markets, I believe you were surrounded by men.
Yes.
So we've all watched Billions. We knew how the hedge fund bros were like. How was it like working in a male-dominated environment?
I think as a woman, you learn a lot about how to adapt. We all do actually in different environments.
Right.
And in the financial service world, I would say, on one hand, I think I was also very fortunate in the sense that even though I was in a very male-dominated industry, in so many ways, I felt I was successful in finding a sponsor in each of my positions. What I meant by that is and not just a mentor, really someone who's a sponsor. A sponsor being someone who really, believed in your talent and really will open door for you in your next steps. And versus a mentor who's maybe more like, oh, let me help you with a specific topic you have in mind or specific goal you have in mind. But the truth is, when you do not have sufficient role model in the next steps of where you see as possibility, you may not know what those goals should be. And so I feel like I was fortunate in the sense that I, along the way, have met many mentors and also many sponsors. And they were men and women, who really paved the way for me to really have the chance to grow my career in the capital markets. I'm not sure every woman, or underrepresented minorities, have the chance for that.
Right.
But for me, I was fortunate enough to have that.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's very, very crucial to identify the need to find sponsors and to really find them and get their help. Right. So I think you can consider yourself really lucky in this sense that you've had sponsors who helped you. Right. And we talked about your year away as a chef. And can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it was always a childhood dream to do the Cordon Bleu program. And I decided to do it if I was going to take a gap year, if you will, which I recommend everyone to do so if they could, to do it in 3 locations and really experience culture of living in different locales
Which
for
3?
several times. So I lived it in Mexico City, Bangkok, and Paris.
And what did you have to do in each place?
Yeah, so the Cordon Bleu cuisine program is 3 levels. And so I did 1 level of the program in each location. And then it's how I got to Paris and how I eventually moved to Paris, actually. It was not originally in my overall plan to move to Europe. And so it was, it was a great discovery process, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
How was a life as a chef like in 3 different cities?
So I was a chef student, so a little bit different.
Studying to be a chef.
Yes, exactly. The Cordon Bleu program is a cuisine student program. I would describe the Cordon Bleu as it was like being an Iron Chef every day, basically.
That sounds really intense. Did you cry every night or something like that?
I did not cry every night, but it was extremely exhausting. And
describe a day for us in the kitchen.
Yeah, so we usually have a 3-hour lecture of lecture plus demonstration, and then we had a break, and then we had another 3 hours of you working on the dish and presenting and evaluation. So within that 3 hours, you have to prepare what you learn in the lecture. But these are not like, oh, let's make one dish. They have usually at least like 12 different components. And so to be able to first learn it and then do it that afternoon is, not so easy sometimes.
That's really stressful.
And then you get evaluated. This is the part where it's like the Iron Chef.
And you did that for a year.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I hope there is an option of doing it for a much shorter period of time.
Yes.
Because if I have to do like that for an entire year, I think I'll go crazy under stress. Which was more stressful, the Iron Chef or capital markets?
They're stressful in different ways. Like I think, in the Cordon Bleu program, we were very high intensity. But also, like, I would say in that 1 year, I learned a lot about being incredibly meticulous. And really, I think any chef will tell you that actually cooking it's really craftsmanship, It's very, very, a lot of rigor and a lot of precision. But at the same time, it's precision that relies a lot on intuition. So it's a really interesting combination of skills. And yet all of it is very, I would say, creative kind of thinking work versus in the capital markets, very intense, very rigorous, high level of excellence, but all very, like, I would say, decision making, analytical. It's like two sides of your brain.
Right.
And after the 1 year of really operating on the other side of my brain, I have to say, it was created actually a lot of clarity for me, because I felt like in my prior career, I was so one side of the brain focused. And then after the 1 year where like it was all the other side of the brain, it really led me to have greater clarity around me as a whole. And so, I really appreciated that, I guess, discovery and self-awareness of what is important to me and what I really enjoy. And
that sounds like really valuable experience. You've exercised both sides of your brain and you're more balanced. And what you described, cooking, is intuitive and meticulous. I think there's a lot of similarities to entrepreneurship as well, which brings me to my next question is, how did you discover Cartier Women's Initiative, or did it discover you?
It was a little bit of both, I have to say. For personal reasons, I moved to Paris. And at that time, actually, I thought what would happen was that I was going to become, a French student. And while I was being a French student, I was going to think about potentially starting a fund supporting female founders. So that was my original thinking. But while I was sort of networking and learning about the ecosystem in Paris that are around impact entrepreneurship, around women empowerment, again, very fortunate in these conversations, someone mentioned, hey, you should check out the Cartier Women Initiative. And I feel like, if anything, that sort of really led to like one thing after another in networking around Cartier Women Initiative. And serendipitously, they needed someone for a project. And so I first was a consultant for them on a project. And that led to me being actually a maternity cover for someone who was on the team.
Okay.
And then after that, I joined as the program director. But going back to a little bit earlier, you were asking me about in my capital markets career. I shared with you that I was very fortunate to have sponsors.
Yeah.
But a big part of finding sponsorship is also like being very open in sharing about like, this really drives me, and I'm really passionate about this topic and why. And I think like when you are comfortable in self-expressing what really matters and what really you're interested in.
You're passionate.
Yes, what you're passionate about. Many people will emerge.
They will find you.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of like this power of manifestation of ideas and things coming to you. And some of them will be the right one, but some, may not. But you really, it's how I found my way, I guess.
Wow. So I think that's another very important lesson from today. You open yourself up. You are open enough about what drives you, what you're passionate about. I think those forces of the universe will find you and help you. And I think that also is a very nice segue to my next question is, what actually happened this time in Taiwan? You came to Taiwan for the first time as the program director, and there was a really wonderful event that I attended, and that was called a Cartier Women Initiative Ecosystem Forum. And I think the participants were all very high power individuals, women entrepreneurs, and really key influencers, and really, really important people. What was the purpose of the forum?
Yeah, so the purpose of the forum is really both to really build the community around the different ecosystem players who are active in Taiwan around women impact entrepreneurship, and also to have greater connection amongst the women entrepreneurs that are in Taipei area. And for us, I have the honor of running the Cartier Women Initiative global program, but actually many of my colleagues from around the world, so for example, in this case, our Cartier Taiwan office, under the leadership of Sally and her entire team, they were also very inspired and passionate about the cause of women empowerment and really decided to do something locally in Taiwan also. And so very fortunately, they have built this incredible partnership with Impact Hub Taiwan, and that has led to this event. But it really has been many years in the making, even from the years of COVID, when we were doing maybe a community or ecosystem moment that was digital, and then an in-person event last year, and the event which was even on a larger scale of connecting different parties from different parts of the ecosystem, ranging from media, from women entrepreneurs, other program, other investors, and those in government, and etc.
Right. We're going to take a break now. And when we come back to the show, we're going to ask Wenjie who she encountered at the forum and what inspired her. So we're going to come back. Welcome back to the Taiwanology podcast. This is your host, Liu Guangying from Commonwealth Magazine. We have in our studio today Wenjie Singh. She is the Global Program Director of Cartier Women's Initiative. And during the break, we were going on and on about her year as a chef with the Cordon Bleu project, and spent some time in Mexico City, Bangkok, and France. That sounded really like a fascinating experience, but I'm not sure I could do that. I think it'll be too rigorous for me. And before the break, we were talking about the ecosystem forum that Cartier hosted. So, Wenjie, what was your observation of the crowd? And why was it important for women to have communities like this?
So it was such a wonderful moment to have a chance to unite the ecosystem around impact and around women impact entrepreneurs. Many great story moments from the people that I had a chance to exchange with or learn about. When you take a look at the forum, we had a panel discussion amongst the three speakers, and two of them were past fellows of the Cartier Women Initiative. One Taiwanese fellow and one a Singapore fellow who's actually expanding her business into Taiwan. And these two entrepreneurs definitely sort of shared with us sort of why they are doing the work that they're doing, and also the challenges that they face, and sort of their work in Taiwan specifically. And then we also had the chance to connect and hear the experience of Eliza from Anchor Capital, and she shared also a bit her journey, and she was someone similar to my experience in the sense that, she also spent her initial career, her first chapter, if you will, in the capital markets, and then decided to leave it to help build the ecosystem of connection between Taiwan and overseas different countries. And then also in the forum, we had a chance to connect with many France-based business development organizations like Business France, as well as La French Tech, who are also supportive of women entrepreneurs and women empowerment topic. And as a France Maison, we're very proud, that they're also doing important work of business and economic development between France and Taiwan here. And then certainly, last but not least, we met with other ecosystem partners like Sparks Lab, as well as many women impact entrepreneurs who are actually building businesses here and considering Cartier Women Initiative as a program to support them in their entrepreneurship journey. And so I think that just sort of sums up on why it's important to have a forum and have the chance to gather everybody, because we are all working towards the same goal around women empowerment and closing the gender gap. We're all working towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we would love to do it together. And so just our experience sharing, discovering rather what each other are working on and if there's room for collaboration and also just cheering each other on, I think we cannot underestimate that.
Right. I was impressed when Elisa was on stage and she was pointing out a picture of events and panel discussions that only featured male speakers. And I think I saw my company up there. Hope that will change very soon. But I do think it's very important to draw people's attention to how many industries and companies and occasions are male dominated. But what you mentioned was very interesting. You said Cartier is a French maison, luxury company. I think many people will have the question, yes, we know that women entrepreneurship is very important, but what's Cartier going to do with it? Why does Cartier support an initiative like this?
So Cartier started the Cartier Women Initiative back in the year 2006. And it's important to highlight the year because it's a long time ago. And actually it was before all of the Me Too movement and conversation of the current, what we're talking about around diversity, equity, inclusion really began. For us as a Maison, the values of Cartier is ones of generosity, of sharing, of curiosity, and boldness. And I would say these 4 key values really led us, when we learned about these different stories of woman changemaker, to really take action to support them. And in the early years of the initiative, maybe for the first 10 years or so, we were more of an award that provide recognition to these incredible change makers. And it was done in collaboration with a few partners. But really, in the past, I would say 7 years or so, the initiative really had the opportunity to transform and grew with the support of Cartier from an award to really a full-blown program. And so the program that you see today, which includes still, of course, the awards pillar of providing the recognition to the woman, also includes a fellowship. So really ways of us delivering our human capital support to them. And then it also includes community, which we say, as social capital is very important. Rather, it is media visibility of what each entrepreneur is doing, or connections with other supporters, like what you experience in the ecosystem forum. That is all very important. And the last vertical of our work is around insights. So running a program since 2006, we have heard so many incredible stories of changemaker. We have started our own impact measurement and data collection around women impact entrepreneurs in the last few years. And that has really driven us to really have great insights around what is going on with these changemakers and why are they so passionate about the cause that they're working on, and rather our support to them really has been impactful. And so for us, this last vertical of insights, it's also our way of hopefully sharing with the greater ecosystem on what this work is about.
Right. I think you really brought the importance of this initiative. It's not only recognition. Beyond that, there's also support mechanisms like award and loans. And there's one aspect I would like to highlight as well, because one of the speakers was Lynn Lim from Singapore. She was so inspiring because she herself is a trained surgeon for nose, ear, throat, 耳鼻喉科. And I think what this ecosystem forum has achieved is maybe a chance for her to not only share her story, but look for potential partners in Taiwan. So could you tell us, because she is one of the fellow this year, recognized by CWI, what is her project?
Yeah, so Lynn is the founder and CEO of NoseQ, and she's actually the first female ENT surgeon in Singapore.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, ENT is ear, nose, throat.
Yes, surgeon. So she's it's a very male-dominated field, and she's the first one in Singapore. And her company basically helps created a medical device that helps do glue ear surgery in a much more affordable and accessible manner. Via a humanitarian mission, she was in Cambodia. And at that time, she was volunteering her time and providing medical care to children who needed to see an ENT specialist or surgeon. And at that time, she also realized, wow, there are many, many kids whom needed the surgery, glue ear surgery. But because of the lack of medical equipment, lack of the correct medical conditions, she was not able to provide the surgery and having to turn away many children who needed it. Oh. And then that led her curiosity to really realize how many people are lacking this care around the world because of this. At the same time, Lynn, as a mother with a daughter, one day, as many mommy-daughter experience, took her daughter to get her ears pierced for earrings.
Right.
At that time, she saw how easy it was for her daughter to get her ears pierced with a piercing gun, handheld device. And then, and from that, an idea, she called it her aha moment, created this idea that, hey, maybe a glue ear can be surgery that's performed by creating a handheld device that does this. I cannot go into the technical details of how all this works. I'm really not qualified as a specialist to talk about all of this ENT medical device equipment and etc. But what I could tell you is I find her story incredibly remarkable because we started this conversation with you around why the need of inclusive entrepreneurship.
Right.
And this is exactly why. She was a female ENT surgeon that decided to start a business to solve one of the healthcare challenges of our times. And from her experience of being a mother, she had an aha moment of innovation, right? This is why in the overall innovation equation, if people are underrepresented, we're just missing so many great ideas.
Right.
Not to mention, we're probably missing many problems, right? Because people who are not represented in the table of coming up with what to create, you probably don't see the challenges, right?
Because their problems will never be heard otherwise.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So Lynn's story, Lynn's journey, and her work is an incredible example of how inclusive entrepreneurship ecosystem can lead to more innovative solution and outcomes for all.
Right.
And for her, she's the awardee for the science and technology category of our program, which is a global category that's focusing on supporting women in deep tech. And this is the category that really received the least amount of venture capital funding. When you take a look at, everybody talks about how woman founder receives very low level of VC funding. And depending on which country you're in, it's definitely single digit. But in the deep tech, it's in the decimals, right? So just highlights the real importance of why program like ourselves and other programs, ecosystem supporters for women in deep tech is really important.
Yeah, so I think that point is so crucial. So we can bring our attention to the fields that are that receive less attention. And I think this is a good opportunity to maybe for Wenjie to call out to the women impact entrepreneurs in Taiwan and around the world. So if you have really good ideas, so who should apply? What kind of entrepreneurs are you looking for?
Yeah, so we are specifically focusing on women impact entrepreneurs. So meaning that the business is led by a woman and then also in its early stage of formation. So that said, I want to say all women impact entrepreneurs deserve support. But for us, why our program is focused on early stage? Well, because we have to prioritize and figure out which is the most critical stage in the entrepreneurship journey that will lead to the largest amount of outcome. And via our research and also looking at all of the applicants historically, what we realize is there are women starting businesses, but they are staying small and not growing beyond their true potential.
As compared to male-created entrepreneurship.
Yes, so exactly. So when you look at the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is the largest body of entrepreneurship and research, they share that women startup activity is 20% less, but established business rates for women, it's 32% less. So why is the percentage growing as the years of the business in operation grows, right? So this is why for us, we are more focused on the early stage of the business formation, but that they have achieved at least some sort of product market fit. Our program specifically look for businesses that have at least 1 year of recurring revenue, but less than 6 years in operation.
Right. So between 1 and 6 years. And does it have to be profitable?
No, not yet. Yeah. It has to be revenue generating, but it doesn't have to be profitable yet. We also look for entrepreneurs who have raised less than 2 million in dilutive funding. And so our program categories are the regional awards. And what I share with you right now, those are the eligibility criteria for the regional awards program. For the deep tech program, because of the nature of deep tech businesses requiring significantly more funding and significantly more years of formation, how we determine the eligibility criteria is different. So there's no maximum level of funding raise requirement, and there's also no years. Instead, we're looking at technology readiness level of the applicant.
I see, yeah.
And then in the last category of diversity, equity, inclusion, it's actually our program category that is open to all gender. And so not just women entrepreneur, but anyone who's an impact entrepreneur creating a business that's trying to solve one of the DEI challenges.
Right. And when you said deep tech, what are the examples of deep tech?
So for us, a deep tech entrepreneur is usually someone who's created some sort of science and technology that's patentable. So it's beyond business model innovation or distribution and renovation. The regional categories, a lot of the businesses are technology or digital types of business, but their value added in their business is much more around distribution or business model innovation.
Right.
Versus someone in deep tech, they actually innovated and created something that is scientific or technology that's patentable.
New invention,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more deep tech innovations coming out of this program, and maybe even from Taiwan.
Yes.
Right. And what was interesting that this initiative is going to make an appearance in the Osaka Expo next year in Japan. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. So the World Expo is an incredible moment for many. And I really encourage you, if you have never had a chance to go to the World Expo, especially if you have kids, it's an incredible experience to learn about the world. You know, it's an exhibition where many countries participate and form pavilions and etc. And for Cartier, we're fortunate that we are in collaboration with Expo creating the Women's Pavilion. And so as part of that, Cartier Women Initiative will have our annual awards week in Osaka.
Well, that sounds nice. I personally haven't been to a work expo, and I will try to get there. I think that would be really interesting. Right. And so my last question would be, being a program director for this initiative, how have you been inspired by the impact entrepreneurs?
Oh, so much, really. I think, it's entrepreneurs like Lynn or ecosystem partners like the Impact Hub or Eliza of Anchor Capital or Hannah, one of our past Taiwanese fellow who started Wepreneurs. For us, all of these change makers are really united in the sense that we all saw something that we knew had to be fixed around the world. Rather, it's a social environmental change. And we really took action. And all of that requires all of us to make the courageous choice to do so. We could have been just, walking around and, not having taken action towards an issue. And so I think that is really the greatest source of inspiration, the courage to take action.
The courage. Like Lynn, when she shared her story, she was actually a kind of professor in a university, a surgeon who could have worked for 20, 30 years in a hospital and nothing would have changed. But instead, she took the step, she took the risk, enormous risk, and to become an entrepreneur. And I was talking with her and she was so excited to show me the gun, the handheld ear-piercing gun. She was so excited to show me because she wanted to show how small it is. And I was just thinking, how different is the life she's leading now compared with the life she was leading as a surgeon, very secure in her job, in a hospital, possibly for life. So I think it's such an inspirational story that if people take the courage to do something different, they could all be impact entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Okay. Just like you here, you took a year to be a chef and now you're the champion for women entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, Wenji, for coming to our studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. So this wraps up today's episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to leave a review or shoot us an email. To read more in-depth reports on Taiwan's women entrepreneurship, please visit Commonwealth English website. This show is produced and edited by Weiru Wang. I'm your host, Liu Guangying. Follow Taiwanology wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time.